Good.
Great. Well, the way we thought we'd start off today is that Breanne and I will be making presentations. We're going to introduce ourselves and then get into the meat of things. A lot of you may be familiar with a lot of the electric vehicle features, but we thought we would go over some of those things briefly up front and then get into some of the other issues which are maybe of more interest to you. I'm Charlie Garlow. I'm the president of DIVA. Can you see my t-shirt here? It says diva.club, Electric Vehicle Association. Diva as in Beyonce or Taylor Swift or divas. I know, that's what you were thinking about me, right? So DIVA is a local nonprofit group here in Delaware. We're partners with the Greater Washington, D.C. Electric Vehicle Club, and they are part of the National Electric Auto Association. We're not a government group. We're just nonprofit people promoting the benefits of clean electric cars. And if I may, just quickly, before we introduce Breanne, who works for our wonderful DENREC folks in the state of Delaware, got my major pitch on why electric cars are good is because they're not only clean for the air and the water. Hey, talk about all the oil spills from Alaska to the Gulf of Mexico to, right out in your driveway. Sometimes you'll see this oil spill underneath of your gasoline car. But also electric cars can be cheaper. Why? Because of the electricity is costing only about 1/3 to 1/4 of the cost of gasoline, even as cheap as gasoline is right now. And maintenance is a whole lot less. I mean, I've owned my Chevy Bolt, which is a good looking car, for a couple of years now. And I've been I did buy a windshield wiper blade replacement. Okay. So there is a little bit of maintenance, but other than that, I don't have any oil changes or muffler changes or radiator flushes or anything like that. Also, electric cars are reduced since it's using homemade energy, electricity. It's made in this country, right? We don't have to send our money off to Russia or Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or those other countries which try to squash democracy and do other bad things. So those are some of the good reasons why we ought to get involved in electric vehicles. I've owned several electric vehicles, as Breanne earlier mentioned, and I now want to introduce you to Breanne, who is working in the Department of Natural Resources, and she's in the global climate change part of it, but she's also the electric vehicle advocate. Am I getting that right, Breanne? Tell us about you.
All right, well, yeah, so my name is Breanne Preisen. I am the, kind of have two hats. I'm the Clean Cities Coordinator for the state of Delaware, so I coordinate with other states on the adoption of alternative fuels, so either propane, compressed natural gas, E85 ethanols, and certainly electrification, which is a major hot topic in that space right now. But I also manage and run the electric vehicle rebate program and take care of all of the outreach efforts and education efforts that come along with that, such as this event. So a little bit of a background. I am very new to this realm. I have a natural resource background in environmental education and land management and into fisheries. And then about a year ago, I thought I was going to dip my toe in the electric vehicle world, but I jumped in completely head first, did a cannonball into it, and have learned so much about it. And I really, really enjoy doing what I do and learning. It's a constant, it's constant revolving, and it's never boring, and there's always something new and up and coming to follow. It's almost a little too much.
Well, Breanne, that's wonderful. Yeah. I thought I would take a little walk with my phone here to introduce people to some of the my electric. Here's my electric Porsche, and you all see the flames on the side over here, and charge the solar panel on the electric Porsche. This is a 1974, which we converted into electric. And of course, up there, I hope you can see the sign that says "Frog parking only. All others will be towed." Can you see that all right? Hearing a folks in the crowd going wild, I can imagine. So we just thought we had a little bit of a mobile connection here in our program to let you know that electric cars come in all sizes and shapes. They're getting to be trucks that are going to be coming on the market. Ford, they're going to come out with their Ford F-150 that will be all electric. Of course, Tesla is not only coming out with their regular sedans, but also trucks, even big over-the-road 18-wheeler tractor trailer trucks. So the future is going to be looking better all the time. More electric vehicle charging stations are available, all sorts of places. Maybe, Breanne, you can tell us a little bit about different kinds of charging. Is that a good thing to start on?
We can certainly start on that, because that is a pretty big barrier in people's mindsets, especially when it comes to charging. Everyone is used to just being able to get in their car and go, and they know that they can travel short distances, long distances, and know that they've got a gas station probably within a mile or two of the next station. So you always, unless you're out in the Midwest where there's far and few between of anything, but just generally speaking, most people just kind of get in their car. They know that they can plan. They have a set time that they can spend 5 minutes at a gas station and then continue on. So when people are switching over to electric vehicles, that's something that they have to take into consideration and kind of replan. And so there's different ways that you can charge. People who drive plug-in electric hybrid vehicles, such as the Toyota Prius Prime, ones that run both on electric and gasoline, they have generally a shorter range. So they can typically just plug into a typical 110 outlet that you would have in your house or your garage. But for those who are driving full electric vehicles that have a pretty significant range of a couple of 100 miles, up to 3 or more, want to probably charge at home with a level 2, which is going to give you a much larger range in a shorter amount of time. But when you're traveling, you'll find these fast chargers, and people become most familiar with these Tesla superchargers that you see at the Wawas. And of course, everyone's like, what do these mean? And they're, of course, only for Tesla right now. But those are really for travel. They give you pretty much a full, complete charge in about 20 to 30 minutes, because it's pumping out that full direct current of electricity, and it's basically supercharging your vehicle. So other electric vehicles, most can accept that kind of a charge outside of Tesla. But so there is some definite costs and some considerations when it comes to charging your vehicle, having to do with the size of the battery, how much current it can take in, and how much range you need to use on a regular basis.
So wait, here's Dustin has already sent in a comment about charging with his level 2 charger, or the 240 volt charger. He got that installed for about $200. He bought the cable on Amazon for $150 and wired a breaker in the house for about $50. Way to go, Dustin. Cheap. I love that. We also got Jill Galmer telling us, hey, what about the loud muffler people? What are they going to do for noise? And Jill, thank you for that great question, because the answer is you stick your head out the window and you go, waboom, waboom, waboom.
Charlie.
And then somebody else, do the flames on my car make it go faster? And the answer is definitely faster with those flames on there.
So just, we are the director of air quality. He drives a full electric vehicle. He drives a Hyundai Kona, and he has street parking. And so he charged at our office when we were able to be in the office. And since we've been home, he ran into the issue of the inability to charge. So he got really smart and had electricity run to the end of his sidewalk and turned the corners of that yard area into a lamp post and a nice garden area. And then he installed a 240 outlet, like your dryer outlet. It's kind of hidden there. It's almost like a junction box, looks like, in his vegetation. And so he charges there on the street. So he's definitely made a very smart move in that. And it was very creative on how he figured out how to park or charge his car with street parking, because that's definitely an issue. Is those, people who live on have street parking, or in the city, or even in apartments and condos and townhomes and things, that getting an electric vehicle is a big barrier, because they have nowhere to charge it, because most people are charging at home.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way, Breanne.
Absolutely.
I live in this apartment building. What am I going to do, Charlie? And I said, come on. What you do is you walk down to your local gas station and you say to them, hey, nobody's using this gas station late at night. Why don't I park my electric car here, pull out the plug on your Pepsi Cola machine, which is on the outside of the building, and plug in an extension cord there and get maybe 40 miles worth of charge overnight on my car, and I'll pay you for the electricity, which will be a lot cheaper than the gasoline. And then you'll make a little bit of a profit on that too. So the gas station owner says, yeah, I'd go for that. And so that person gets to have their electricity charged overnight and a place to park the car at the same time that they don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, how am I going to run an extension cord out of the 3rd-story window and all the way down to the bushes or something. So there's a way to get these things worked out if you just try to scratch your head and work with other people to make it happen. But one of the other better things, though, is have charging at work. If you drive to work and your employer says, just like the gas station owner, hey, you want to plug in and charge in a 120 socket, get another 40 miles of range on your car while you're here at work 8 hours a day, sock it to it. Oh, sock it to it. There's another. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Charlie, stop it.
There are all these electric car jokes I've been just dying to tell people. Anyway, I get a
Well,
charge up.
I think that that's an option. That could be an option for some, but for those who might live in a rural community, or in just rural areas that, you know, they don't have a gas station nearby where they can do that, or may not have the capabilities to install any kind of charging at home because they don't have a garage or what have you. Or recently, I've been in contact with someone who moved into an apartment complex on the riverfront in Wilmington. And so she's been trying to figure out how she can charge her vehicle because her property management company won't allow her to plug into just the regular 110 outlet. And that has to do with electricity distribution and who's going to pay for that, because that's kind of shared electricity throughout the complex. And even though she's offered to pay and whatnot, they're still a little apprehensive. So that, you know, charging is a big barrier. It's a barrier for companies. It's a barrier because they need to see that tangible added value to the property. But more and more employers are starting to add charging stations for their employees as kind of a perk. You know, we're gonna let you charge here for free. We'll give you a gym membership. We'll, you know, give you a box of chocolates if you sell something. You know, that kind of a thing. They're using that as an employee perk. And apartment complexes should also look at that as a value to their tenants, to not only attract new tenants, but to also retain the current ones they have, and maybe allow their.
They have, there's another electricity joke. Dave, it's fun.
Are you writing these down?
Back and forth between Breanne and Charlie. Here's Breanne says, oh, it's a big problem with this charging. And Charlie says, oh no, Charlie says, not a problem at all. Rural areas, for example, my brother John, well, we grew up in West Virginia. He still lives on the farm out there in West Virginia. Rural areas, they don't have big, tall apartment buildings, so you have to run a wire down into the bushes. He has electricity right outside of his rural place that he stays in, which is 1 or 2 floors high, and he charges up on the electricity. Electricity is everywhere in this country. It's not just at the gas station 20 miles down the road if you're an electric car guy who lives in a rural area. So really, for him and for other people in rural areas, I would advocate electric cars. Charge them at home, not a problem.
Right.
And for those who have hotels, hotel owners should be saying, hey, we've got electric cars here at this hotel. And if they've got a level 2 charger, you know, they can, because they can attract more people who want to stay at their hotel because they have electric vehicle charging. A lot of these people who stay at hotels are, you know, maybe people who own Teslas or nice Chevy Bolts or other nice cars. They get an extra person to stay at their hotel. One night's hotel stay more than paid for the charger. So they're making like a money rabbit there.
I've seen them offered on Airbnbs as an extra amenity for people driving electric vehicles, which I think is great. So they're definitely, you know, it's coming. It's definitely an area that we're going to start seeing a lot more vehicles on the rebate side of things. Even during COVID, I saw a little bit of a decrease in the amount of vehicles being sold and rebates coming into me. But there wasn't a whole lot of change in that. I think we had a twofold situation. Everyone was stuck inside. They weren't driving. Then they started to see that the air quality got better. You could see the maps that New York and LA and China were putting out that their air quality had gotten better. But at the same time, once movement started happening in those other areas, everyone ran out and bought their own vehicle, a personal vehicle, because they didn't want to ride public transit any longer because there was a huge spread of that in the public transportation. So that could potentially switch mindsets here. I do know ridership is still down here in Delaware for multiple reasons. I think we're still just running essential trips, but people are a little nervous to ride on public transportation. So there's the concern that more people are going to go out and buy single occupancy vehicles. So there's even more of a push now for me and for you, Charlie, and for those who are advocates for EVs to try to talk about the benefits, and not just from a financial standpoint, but from a climate change standpoint as well, as where transportation comes into play, and how electric vehicles can really reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and just kind of put a big dent into climate change. Not always, not completely, but it can certainly put a dent into.
Right, and let's talk about where the electricity comes from, if we could briefly. Like in my house, did you see the solar panel? I didn't show you. The solar panels on the roof of my house are what charges my house and my car. And probably 30% of those people who own electric vehicles also are into solar energy, and they buy solar energy that way. Or they can buy wind power or other renewables from other third-party sellers of electricity. You don't have to just depend upon Delmarva Power, or you could work through Delmarva Power and get renewable energy that way as well. So for all these reasons, electricity is great as a means of powering our vehicles, not only cars and trucks, but also buses. We're getting some electric buses here in the state of Delaware, right, Breanne?
We are. I know we are at least up to 16. The number 22 sticks out in my head, and so I know there's I think 8 in Newcastle County, 6 down here in Kent County, and then I know Lewis is supposed to get some as they're building that new depot station over there by the Lowe's. So yes, the electric buses. As far as the transit buses that are long routes, the paratransit buses that you see that are picking up people at their homes and other locations, those, as of next summer, I believe, they will all be run 100% on propane fuel. Well, which is great.
Well, propane's not as bad as gasoline, but not as good as being on electric. So someday we'll push them all the way to electric. And we're getting more solar panels over some of these parking areas for the buses and other places as well, right?
Yep, so we are. That's definitely a thing happening. So it's great. You know, one of the things, and I know that you noticed this in one of the public workshops you attended overall, and in the public workshops that I just attended with the Climate Action Plan, was an overwhelming response on the need for renewable energy. And that will all kind of trickle down into a lot of the other sectors. But if we can get more renewable energy, things will be a lot cleaner.
Right. Now, some people don't buy their power, like I do, from a third-party supplier of electricity that's renewable, in which case, if they're just plugging into a regular wall socket, then you could say that part of their electricity is coming from natural gas or even coal, which is unfortunate. But we should know to tell people that every day you're driving along in your electric car and getting some of your electricity from natural gas or coal, that electric car is getting cleaner and cleaner every day as the grid gets cleaner. The more we build solar panels and wind turbines and get rid of coal plants, bingo, your car just got cleaner. Unlike gasoline cars, which every day they're going down the road, they're getting slightly more out of tune and getting dirtier every day. Electric cars, cleaner every day. ICE cars, dirtier every day.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say the ICE cars are getting dirtier every day, just because you've got a lot of the provisions and a lot of hybrid, right, conventional hybrids, and then the fuel standards are supposed to increase as the years went on. So they definitely aren't as bad as they once were. But I actually sent Dustin a graphic, and Dustin, if you wouldn't mind sharing that graphic, it's kind of a real cap on just we have a total inventory for the United States of where the greenhouse gas emissions are coming from. And you can see clearly that 28% of that is coming from transportation and 27% of that is coming from electricity. And it's because it's coming from fossil fuels, not necessarily renewable resources. So we're hoping to change that. But that transportation, I mean, that of course that covers everything, but the largest section of that percentage comes from light duty passenger vehicles, the cars that we drive, not big dump trucks or big trucks, which certainly contributes, but light duty passenger vehicles contribute to the most of that transportation sector. So if you go over to the next graphic, I got it from the Minnesota Pollution Control because I thought it was the most easiest to understand. But you can see, how much carbon and noxious gases and particulate matters are going into the atmosphere by using just a regular gas-powered vehicle. And you can see there is a definite change when using an electric vehicle on a general mix like we've got of nuclear and coal and wind and gas. And then if you were to use an electric vehicle or charge an electric vehicle with completely renewable energy, you can see that there's very, very little that goes out into to the environment. So the more renewable energy that we get to, that changes that percentage on the electricity, thus changing the percentage on that transportation as far as getting lowering our GHG emissions. That's all I had. So Dustin, you can, unshare that.
Well, that was a very nice graphic. I saw over on the far right that the electric vehicles, like mine, charged by solar power, like mine, had 0.1 something or others of particulate matter. I thought, wait a minute, where's that coming from, Breanne?
That I probably cannot answer. That would probably have to come out of the air quality section because they know the chemistries a little bit more when it comes from, the resources and whatnot. My 100% focus is carbon reduction, just because carbon is such a big component and a big percentage of GHG reduction in the emissions. So in the chat box, everyone, there's a little bit, it's like a 2.5-minute video from the Union of Concerned Scientists that kind of give a little bit more of an overview on what they call wheel to well and how much carbon emission is going out when building and driving an electric vehicle versus building and driving an ICE powered vehicle or an internal combustion engine.
Very good. The chat is getting a lot of good stuff out there. I can't go over it all. I did want to say, way to go, Adam Sedkowski, pointing out that EVs are more fun to drive. They are faster because they do use electricity, which is, like sunshine, the fastest stuff in the universe, traveling at 186,000 miles per second. That's right. Everybody knows that number. Love that. That's why the Tesla is always beating out Maseratis and all these other fancy cars that think they're so fast. Blows their doors off. It's just great stuff. So
has anyone, give a thumbs up, has anyone ever test drove an electric vehicle if you do not own an electric vehicle? So you get an idea of how instant that power is. They are definitely quite fun to drive. And Dustin, to answer your question or to your point back about used vehicles, that is a component on my long-term planning to institute a used car program as more become available in the used car market.
So one of the other things from the chat was, how do you find out about chargers? And there are apps for that, as you can imagine, one of which is Plug Share, in which if you have a charger at your house, like I do, then you can put your charger on Plug Share because I'm willing to share my plug with other people. It's a great way to meet folks. They stop by and they bring me a bottle of wine and ask if they can plug in. And I say, yeah, sure, let's be. So it works out great to get to know new people and to also find out where there are faster chargers that we talked about as well. All over the United States, this country is just loaded with chargers.
PlugShare is definitely one of the more popular ones. There's a few other resources. You've got the Alternative Fuel Data Center, which is run through the Department of Energy. So a lot of the chargers are on there as well. If you don't have a phone or want to plan ahead of time. We also have them on our website. It's actually a requirement of ours that we give rebates out to entities that are applying for charging station rebates. We do require that they, for public anyway, we require that they go on the public map so everyone knows that they can charge, and more pop up each day, each week. There are large organizations who have huge campaigns to get more charging out there, especially along corridors and whatnot. And then there's big pushes on our end and on the building end as newer apartments are being built. They're installing the charging stations ahead of time, which is much cheaper on their end. As hotels are being built, I know that the new energy codes that'll start in another year or so, they're going to require electric vehicle charging stations as well. So they're definitely going to be a lot more commonplace.
A lot of shopping malls down here in Rehoboth Beach, where I live, have free charging. They give you the electricity for nothing. And why? Because they figure if you're sticking around for it, half an hour, what are you going to do? You go shopping and you drop $100 on some jewelry or whatever. That's how they make money on this whole deal. So it works for them. And it's good to have free electricity. People like that.
Right.
So
Does any, but before we get too further on, Charlie, I just was curious if anyone had any other questions about electric vehicles or concerns or um, myths they want busted about converting over to an electric vehicle or.
well, I'll tell you what, if they don't right away and they can bring it up in the chat, that would be a good thing to do. And we'll try to respond to any questions that you have. Here's my pal Joseph Larson talking about his cars. Maybe we could get into some of the meat of the matter that you could tell us, Breanne, about the rebates that the state of Delaware has, the federal rebates, all those sorts of things to remind people they can save money.
Yeah, public charging is definitely a hot topic in my area right now, just because the biggest issue is we don't own a lot of the property. It's privately owned. And so the only thing that we can do is provide a pretty robust rebate program and try to keep it as clean as possible. So we rebate up to 90%, 75 to 90% of the actual charging station cost, not the installations, because that gets into some squirrely areas. But so we try to keep our program pretty clean and robust to make it pretty attractive to property owners and business owners to want to install vehicles. I know that as DelDOT is purchasing properties and making park and rides and things, they're starting to install charging stations at their locations. So I can't say because we don't own the property, we would love to have more charging stations. We can't make people pay the money to install them, unfortunately.
But
so,
there are rebates that are available for people who want to install at their home still. Is that right?
Right. No, we ended the residential program at the end of the last calendar years, and we wanted to make sure we focused our efforts on public charging because we know that there's a need there.
How about rebates for the purchase of electric cars, new electric cars?
New electric cars, it's for full battery electric, it's $2,500, and then for plug-in electric hybrids, it's $1,000 new. And you can either go to one of the participating dealerships and you can have that rebate taken right off the top, and they apply for the rebate on your behalf, or you can, if you were to go buy a Tesla or a Hyundai or Kia, even, you'd have to go out of state to get them because they don't sell them here in Delaware. So you would have to purchase the car on your own and then come in and apply for the vehicle rebate after the fact. And that's
rebate on the purchase of new electric cars is still available as well. For example, when I bought my Chevy Bolt, I got $7,500 from the feds as a tax credit. That's off of my taxes owed, and I got $2,500 from the state of Delaware. So I was like $10,000 off of the price of my Chevy Bolt, which made it cost about $26,000. Not bad.
Right. However, Chevrolet has run out of their federal funds, so that tax credit is no longer there available, and the Tesla one isn't either. So depending on the manufacturer, let me back up for a second. Just to kind of give some background. So the federal government gave manufacturers, I think they had to sell, 200,000 electric vehicles. Yep. And they would get a federal tax credit of up to $7,500. And once they hit a certain threshold, that federal tax credit would be cut in half and then in half and then until it went away. So some of those manufacturers, Tesla, General Motors, have completely depleted that pot of money. Other manufacturers,
other electric cars, you can still get it, right? That's the good
thing. Yeah, like Ford's about half. So if you were to go get yourself a Fusion Energy or the Mach-E that's coming out, you would probably get about $3,500. I don't think they don't have the full $7,500. I believe Nissan still does. I believe that Hyundai still does. You'd have to look at the website. There's so many out there, and they still will credit you on if somehow you found a 4-year-old brand new smart car, they would still give you the full $7,500 federal tax credit for that. So there's definitely incentives out there, not only from the federal tax credit, which is a tax credit that is done at the end of your taxes. Ours is a cash rebate, so you get handed either a cash rebate of $2,500 or it's taken off at the dealership if you go to a dealership. And then there's a lot of the manufacturers are putting out their own incentives, like Chevrolet. They're they're really generous on their incentives. As a matter of fact, I just saw something on, I think it was Monday. If you are a Costco member, they have a $3,000 certificate that you apply for, and you take that to the dealership and you get $3,000 knocked off of the vehicle purchase on top of then our rebate of $2,500. So that's $5,500 right off the top of that. So I see your face, Mary. Charlie, as what Charlie was saying earlier, it is definitely doable out there. You know what, you just have to watch the time. GM puts out deals all the time, and there are sometimes secret deals where you don't know about them until you actually go. So
let's back up for just a minute to what Breanne was saying about how you can't buy a Tesla here in the state of Delaware. And that's because there are these automobile dealers, if you will, who've been trying to block Tesla from selling anything inside of any state across the whole United States unless they have dealerships, like they've already put their dealerships out there. And Tesla's business model is just different. They'd like to say, hey, you can buy an Apple computer over the web. You can buy, you know, anything over the web. Why shouldn't you be able to buy a car over the web? It's just wackadoodle not to allow people to buy things over the web rather than having to have a brick and mortar presence in the state in order to do so. So one of the things we might think of as an action item would be to talk to our state senators and state delegates and the governor to urge them to get rid of that provision so that anybody can buy a Tesla here in the state of Delaware, and that'll mean more jobs here and more availability of product to the people in Delaware, although you can get them pretty easily if you order them from out of state. So that's the issue that Breanne was talking about earlier. One of the other things we were talking about was not only direct sales to the manufacturer, but also there are some other vehicles that are for sale, but they're not just readily available all that much. And the question was, well, why is that? And the answer is because Delaware has not signed the Zero Emission Vehicle MOU. In other words, any cars that are sold in a state where there's a Zero Emission Vehicle Memorandum of Understanding, they get credits for it against whatever that state's mandate is. Delaware doesn't have that, so they're not exactly all that much interested in selling cars here in the state of Delaware. We can get around that, of course, by urging our state representatives, our state senators, and our governor to join the Memorandum of Understanding on zero emission vehicles. Then we'd be in the same position as like California, which would be terrific in my mind. Breanne, you got a reaction to that, or you're not going to go there, huh?
I just want to make sure that because I think somebody did ask that. I think Mary did ask that, and I hope that answered your question, Mary. Is that there are some rules and regulations in place that do prevent some of those manufacturers from sending them here. So to answer the question about getting chargers at the libraries, again, that's definitely up to the city or the county or whoever's running that library to install those stations. They're not state owned, so we can't really. All we can do is just give them the rebate and tell them that they should. Libraries is definitely a location that I hear a lot from people that they would like to see charging stations. So yeah, that libraries can certainly put them in. It just has to be up to them to make those decisions. It would be great if the new library that's going in Middletown for Newcastle County would put them in as they're developing and building that library, because it would save them a lot of money on the front end.
So once again, advocacy is something you might step in and say right here, since DEVA is an advocacy organization, go to your librarian and say, hey, this is what we want. Why don't you do this? It doesn't really cost diddly squat in order to install one of these chargers here. And push them a little bit. Talk to your police chief, talk to your mayor, talk to your county council members and say, why aren't we having more police cars or parking enforcement people driving around in electric cars? You have to make some noise. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Sorry to make another car analogy, but there are police departments across the United States who do have electric cars already. They're plenty fast and they're quiet. You can sneak up on the bad guys. And there's no reason why we shouldn't have that kind of leadership that shows our leaders are pushing us into the future. And in order to get them to lead, you have to push them a little bit. Right?
Yeah, no, I don't have any. That's exactly what, honestly, you have to do, is to push those people, the decision makers, and who are the property managers, and you know, show them that you know, there's benefit to installing the stations. I mean, they can do it kind of on the cheap. They don't have to do it, you know, putting in these fancy dual port stations that you see in some of the locations. They can be a simple one plug attached to the wall that's as close to the electricity box as they can get. I wouldn't say it doesn't cost diddly squat, but I would definitely say that they could, you know, do it pretty inexpensive. But to go back to the chat, Dustin, to answer your question about the federal rebate or the federal tax credit, as far as I know, it can be done on a lease. I've seen it done through leasing, but not on the purchase. I don't know how or why that is, but I definitely know that people are taking advantage of that federal tax credit through the leasing, because the leasing agent is the one receiving that tax credit, not the lessor.
Well,
leasee,
you
I
get
guess.
it or two. If you're buying a new electric Kia Soul, you can get the $7,500 tax credit on your federal taxes. So it's good for leasing as well as for purchases. Anyway, look, we should probably try to start wrapping this up. We want to ask Bree if she could help anybody with anything that DNREC is doing, that you're working on now, that's going to be coming near in the future. Any way we can help you, Bree?
Right now, I mean, just basic marketing is word of mouth, advocate, push, tell people how great electric vehicles are, how great they are for, you know, to help combat climate change, to help with greenhouse gas emissions. They're fun to drive. I mean, give all the plugs. You know, once I can get out of quarantine and start attending events, come out and support us and support DIVA. Pay attention, like starting on September 26th through October, I think 2nd is National Drive Electric Week. So there's going to be a ton of information out there that all kinds of states are putting out. There's different sessions like this that'll tell you all about electric vehicles and how great they are. They're, you know, different states, different clean city coalitions are putting these things together. So like us on Facebook if you want to stay up to date on what we're doing when it comes to climate change, climate and our climate action plan, on electric vehicles, on our programs, having to do with electric vehicles, our solar grants, that if you want to put solar panels on, we've got grants for that too out of our energy office. So probably the best way, sign up for our newsletter, get on our Facebook page, push those companies and those businesses and those entities that you have relationships with, and have them put in charging stations, and let them know that we have a rebate program, and to get on that bandwagon, because they're going to get left behind. They're going to get left in the dust.
Here's an action item I'd like to suggest for everybody on the call. As soon as we get off, write an email to john.carney, that's our governor here in Delaware, john.carney@delaware.gov, and urge him to make sure that wherever he goes, he's in an electric car. That means, you know, he's driving around the country as part of his governor business, going to, you know, fairs or ribbon cuttings or whatever. It should be in an electric car. And he should be out there bragging it up, talking about how wonderful the electric car is. That's what you call leadership. That's what we need from our governor. That's what we need from all of our representatives and mayors and other people as well. Tell them to get into an electric car. They'll never be the same. They'll get these two little bite marks in their neck, the two little plug marks, right? And it'll be just in time for Halloween for those bite marks in your neck. They should be talking about how they can find a different way of saving money with their electric cars. This is another thing you can talk to people about when you're talking about electric cars. Write letters to the editor of your local newspapers and say how great electric cars are, or somebody talk to you about their electric car, or you're thinking about buying an electric car and here's some of the rebates you can get. All those things help to keep the pot boiling on getting more people to buy, lease, drive in electric cars. And the more people see electric cars going, oh, hey, there's another Tesla, the more likely it is that they also will want to have an electric car as well. Same thing is true of solar panels on the roofs of your house. You see 2 or 3 people in your neighborhood with solar panels on the roof of your house, all of a sudden you say, well, hey, maybe I could do that too. It gets people over that initial fear of trying to do it because they don't want to be the first one. So how are we doing on time here, Dustin?
We should probably go ahead and wrap it up.
Good.
Anybody else have any questions for us? Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Questions from the audience. Let's hear if anybody who has some suggestions or things, put it in the chat, or maybe we could unmute these people. I don't know. What do you think, Dustin? Let them ask it with their mouth.
Or somebody who owns 2 electric vehicles, one who owns a full EV and one who owns a plug-in hybrid vehicle, might want to chime in and maybe give a plug on his or her vehicles. Adam?
Adam's
So I allowed everybody, if you want to unmute, you are free to do so, but please know that you will be in the broadcast. Your video will be featured in the broadcast.
that we're saving, they're recording.
Hey guys, so unfortunately I don't have my other vehicle here, which is the plug-in hybrid. It's a Kia, it's a Kia Niro. It's been great. We actually had to go all the way up to New York to buy it because you just couldn't buy them in Delaware. But I do have my Chevy Bolt as well. It's a blue one here, and my charging setup is fairly simple. I planned ahead a bit, but I do have a fuse box in my pole building already. That is 100 amp, and I put a 1450 plug right below it. So I ran a cord a whole foot, basically, to give myself a plug for charging. Really simple. My wife, she's got the Kia Niro, and we just have a regular 110 outlet in the garage where she charges off of that. So, and then if she needs to charge her car quickly, then she can use my plug as well. So that's my setup.
Great. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. Anybody else want to chime in?
Joseph, you mentioned that you have 2 plug-in hybrid vehicles. Do you plug at home or do you plug at another location? You can always just start in the chat if you don't want
okay,
to.
I think I'm in now. Yeah,
Yeah.
we plug at home. We installed a fast charger. We got it off of Amazon. We had an electrician come in. We had to have several because the first 1 or 2 didn't know what they were doing, but we did get it installed. We only have partially electric, but they just charge it within an hour or 2, and it's really, really awesome. And so now that we're comfortable with that, we're looking to get a fully electric car. But there's so many new ones coming out that we're trying to hold up because in the next year, there's probably going to be, well, I'm reading maybe 15, 20 of them. And we want to make sure we get the best one. Teslas are sort of very expensive, and hopefully they'll come down. But the experience has been really nice, and we really appreciate the Delaware discount or tax credit for the charger, along with the credits we got from when we bought the cars.
Great. And yes,
Honda Clarity, and we have a Honda Clarity, which gets about 60 miles of charging. And then I have a Toyota Prius, which only gets about 30. But the car is just awesome when it's in electric mode. You can tell the difference.
Yep. We have a Prius Prime, and I definitely tell the difference when I run out of electricity and kick over to gas.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, that transmission again.
And also, one thing to note, the best-selling car in the U.S. right now is the Toyota, the RAV4 Prime. So you can get a bigger vehicle and still plug in.
Good luck finding that. I just read an article where they are very hard to find right now.
But they're very popular. So previously you heard
Adam, I just wanted to jump in and say to Adam that I don't need a new car yet is my problem, and mine is so old that it is a automatic or standard transmission. But I got my eye on that Kia Niro, so I'm interested that you went out of your way to get one.
Yeah, sell that old car before it dies on you, Jill, while it's still got some value, and use the money to buy your Kia Soul. Way to go,
So,
Jill.
Adam, your Kia Niro is totally electric, 100% electric?
No, we got the plug-in hybrid.
I got that too.
We needed a car at the time, and you actually, I think at the time the fully electric Niro was not available yet. So we couldn't get that one. So we went for the plug-in hybrid. We've been happy with it. It's already got 30,000 miles on it. Hopefully, it's about half electric miles probably.
Dustin, sorry, Joseph.
I was just going to say, Joseph Lawson, as my new pal, just recently joined Diva. I was going to put in a pitch there. Anybody wants to join Diva, you may do so for free. We do not charge dues or anything. And go to diva.club, and you're basically sending me an email, and I put you on the email list. That's about it. we invite you to come out to educational events like this one and other opportunities to show off your electric vehicles and talk with people in the public about it from a social distance with your mask on and wash your hands. But we're trying to get the word out there, and you can join us at DIVA if you'd like to.
I'm going to answer Dustin's last question then, and we can let you guys go. You said you hear Tesla is working on a cheaper version. So Tesla had their battery day yesterday when Elon announces all the good stuff, just like Apple does with their iPhones. And he did discuss in the next couple of years having a cheaper battery, which is generally about 1/3 of the cost of an electric vehicle manufacturing. So if they can get those cells down to about $100 per kilowatt, I think that price parity will come down and they'll be a little bit
They were actually
cheaper.
saying, their goal is like $50.
Oh, was it 50?
50, yeah.
I had to keep going in and out, so I know that 100, I think at one point was his goal, but
They're at
he's
a
very
basically
ambitious.
they're at 100 now, basically.
Okay.
As time goes by, electric vehicles are getting cheaper and cheaper. And you may see that the new pickup trucks that are going to be coming out of whoever, Ford or Nikola or Tesla or whoever is going to be making pickup trucks. That's going to be probably a little pricier than what you might think of for a pickup truck. Although a lot of people pay $40,000 for a Ford F-150 or 250 pickup truck. But the first electric trucks are going to probably be a little expensive, but time will go by and those prices will keep coming down, cheaper by the dozen. Life is going to be getting better and better. Any other comments?
Send me what you drink every day, Charlie. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, you can certainly reach out to Sierra Club. They could put you in touch with me, or go to your event that you signed up for. And if you have any questions about the rebate program, about electric vehicles, Charlie's a great resource. I'm a great resource. And there's a lot of resources out there that are on the Google that will give you anything that you need.
You can look up Delaware EVs on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter.
Right.
And I just sent my email to John Carney and copied you, Charlie.
Nice.
Great. Thank you, Jill. Mwah. I send you a big smooch. Anybody else want to smooch too? Let me know. I'm pretty free with those things. So if you haven't joined Sierra Club yet, that's another good thing to join. Delaware.sierraclub.org. Is that right, Dustin?
So it used to be that. So now it's sierraclub.org/Delaware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can join. You can join this month for $15, and then you can get in for free to our trivia night that Charlie donated a lot of questions to. And so if you're not a Sierra Club member, you do have to pay the $15, which will get you the membership to join the trivia night. Just a little thing that we try to put on to make your membership just that much more worth it. So it's going to be a fun time. I assure you that Charlie's questions are as entertaining as Charlie himself.
Well, we didn't want to wear you out by keeping you here too long, but I do notice that we've still got maybe 15 participants. So if anybody has a thought you want to share with us, we've still got a little time left for you. The microphone is open.
I guess my reaction is that battery supply is still very limited for manufacturers. They're building factories as fast as they can, and they get used up as fast as they can build them. And that's the limiting factor for Hyundai and many of the other manufacturers, why they simply don't have as many cars as people might want.
True, and we're hoping that the progress of technology, clever engineers out there, people like Adam and others, will be able to figure out the solutions to those supply glitches. I myself would like to see something besides lithium as a battery technology. Zinc, air, there's lots of great chemistries out there. I'm not a chemist, but...
We did have one question on Facebook before we wrap up. I don't know if Bree or Charlie, you would know this information, or if anybody else that's joining us today would know. The question was, is there any quantified risk or amount of risk that people have studied about the cars like grounding out, or any accidental fires or anything like that with the mishaps with batteries? Has anybody ever heard anything about that?
Yes. So I do know that there were some issues as far as Tesla when they caught on fire and then recaught on fire after they were put out once. And then so they've put in shields to underneath the car to kind of contain all of that. They do. I'm pretty sure that they put grounding in all of that. And I do know that most of the vehicles go through the same safety testing, if not more safety testing, as regular gas-powered vehicles do go through, and generally have the same safety ratings, if not better, because of the way that the vehicle is built, with the battery pack being on the bottom versus in the middle, or in the front end of the vehicle.
But I think anytime that you have energy stored in a container, whether it's an electric battery or a gas tank, there's always the risk of explosion. And as you may recall, a couple years back, maybe you're too young for this, there was a Pinto that they had called the Crispy Critters Flaming Pinto, because it had a bad habit. Anybody rear-ended it,
Yeah, remember that.
flames all over the place. I mean, it was pretty nasty. So I frankly think that I'm safer in an electric car than I am in a gasoline car. I don't have any studies right now at my fingertips, but I imagine we can Google that and find out. Here's your homework assignment, Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely studies out there. There's information out there, that have been done. Like, I don't have those studies either, but at my fingertips. But yeah, it's definitely been thought about, tested. There's alternative fuel training out there for emergency responders on how to deal with those. I just sent all of that over to our natural resource police to take that free training so they can be prepared for these vehicles as they enter the parks and these natural areas and fish and wildlife areas. And even on the road, I mean, they're first responders. So they statewide, if they're on the road, they see somebody needing help, they got to stop. So yeah, there's trainings out there. There's safety testing. There's reports. There's studies. They just have to look that up. But if they want to talk further about it, they can certainly.
I have a question.
Go, Joseph.
Is there a legislative committee that handles EVs and EV issues that we should be in contact with? I was thinking about the fact that maybe there should be grants to cities and municipalities to help them install chargers in places like libraries that somebody mentioned before, or we got all this stuff, all these parking spaces near the beach there, and we have city and county offices in Georgetown. And so is there some sort of committee we could write to say, hey, you should give cities some support and encouragement in order to get more chargers installed on their properties?
If I could jump in real quick. So next year, we've heard from Krista Griffith, Representative Griffith, sorry, that she will be reintroducing a bill that would help with that, help recover costs for putting in chargers. So there's not a specific like EV committee, but the Natural Resources Committee and the Energy Committees in the House and the Senate usually handle that kind of stuff. And so the Sierra Club will, obviously be supporting Representative Griffith as we did last year when she tried to get that bill passed. But of course, things didn't go down super well last year, and it was really tight the year prior. So there are nonprofits that we have connections with as well that in certain parts of the state will help cover the cost of EVs. Chargers, sorry, cover the cost of chargers.
So
Wilmington actually, I'm not sure where you're at, Joseph, but Wilmington is actually looking at planning how they can put in more chargers around the Market Street area and the riverfront and in the parking structures and all that stuff. So we met with the mayor's staff last year before the pandemic, or earlier this year before the pandemic started, and they told us they have a lot of plans that they're looking at, who can do it for the best price, sort of thing. So that's good news.
Joseph, if you're in Lewis, why not write to Mayor Ted Becker and tell him, hey, we need more electric vehicles in the city fleet. You've already got a lot of good charging stations there in Lewis. And then write to your state senators and state representatives and say, get with Representative Griffith's bill on electric vehicle charging stations.
Okay, I will get the information from you about.
We'll keep passing it to you since you're on our list, and
okay.
people will be lobbying for those measures that you mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hate to kick us off, but we have another meeting around 4 o'clock that we gotta use our Zoom account for. So Charlie and Bree, if you have any parting thoughts.
Bree, you first.
No, just as I said earlier, just, keep up the good word and tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell the UPS driver, who hopefully will drive a UPS truck soon, or an electric UPS truck soon. But yeah, just help us keep fighting the good fight.
Well, I was just going to say this has been an awful lot of fun. I've certainly enjoyed myself. I hope I haven't imposed upon your hospitality too much, but let's do these sorts of things again. If you've got an organization that you're part of, League of Women Voters or some other group, invite the Charlie and Breanne show back and we'll do this all over again. It'll be great fun.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you,
Thanks
everybody.
everyone for spending an hour with us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.